It's April the 10th, 2025, and I hope everybody's been having a wonderful day so far today. I've done a couple takes for this video already so far, and I just realized that when I said today's date that my daughter is going to be 21 in just a couple days. It's just crazy how the time flies. It really is. But what I wanted to talk about today has to do with a conversation that I was having yesterday with someone, and this individual has been struggling here recently. And our conversation, started off just talking about, the fact that this individual was struggling and, what they were going through. And they were basically asking me, what I thought about some certain things. This individual plays in a band, and one of the problems that this individual has is when they play in their band, they get triggered because it's just something that they've associated with drinking for such a long time, and every time that they play, they drink. So now when they go to play in their band, it's just really difficult. For one, because there's alcohol all over the place. And two, this individual was telling me, that it's just something that they've always done. They drink when they play in these concerts. And I'm not going to say where or what kind of band this individual's in or anything like that. So, but like I said, this individual said it was okay for me to discuss this. But my point to this is that, we got into a pretty deep conversation yesterday, and like I said, they were struggling pretty bad. And one of the part of the conversation that we were talking about was creativity, and this individual was saying that he's had those thoughts that he would lose his creativity if he stopped drinking. And I was saying that I had been discussing with somebody in the comments the night before about just this as well. About how this individual was concerned that they were going to lose their creativity if they stopped drinking. And that's going to be a video for another day. I'm actually probably going to talk about that tomorrow, about creativity and this. But we eventually got to the part of the conversation to where I just said, look, it's just as simple as this. If you keep drinking, you're only going to end up in a couple of places, and that's either on the streets, in jail, or either in a grave, and or in the hospital. And I just said, I'm just going to be as blunt as I possibly can with you. If you continue to go down this path, you're going to end up getting sick. And that individual told me, that's exactly what I needed to hear today, is that that you would be completely honest with me, and that that it doesn't lead anywhere good. And I said, no, it absolutely doesn't. But while we were having that conversation yesterday, it just got me to thinking about how before I was diagnosed with cirrhosis and pancreatitis and all that stuff, I really didn't think that somebody my age could end up with cirrhosis. I just didn't. I've always thought that cirrhosis was something that old homeless people got. I always thought that it was people that were way up there in age, like 80 years old or something, that ended up with cirrhosis. I didn't realize that people in their 20s, 30s, 40s could end up with cirrhosis as well. I just did not know. And, I'm not saying that's anybody's fault other than my own, because I didn't want to know, to be honest. I didn't do my own due diligence and do my own homework and look into this on my own to see, what the consequences could really be. And there just isn't a lot of information out there unless you go online and really look for it. But there weren't YouTube videos popping up on my feed or anything discussing this. And I wasn't looking for it either, so it wouldn't have really popped up on my algorithm. And like I said, I just wasn't looking for it. I did not want to know. But it really got me to thinking, like I said, after talking to that individual yesterday, about what I wanted to talk about today. And what I wanted to talk about today is it'll never happen to me. And, that's something that I thought my whole entire life. it'll never happen to me. I'll never end up with cirrhosis. I'll quit before that happens. I'll never get sick because of my drinking. I'll quit before it ends up getting that bad. And I honestly did think that I would be able to quit before it got that bad. That's what I always told myself. And there was always this promise that tomorrow I'm going to be sober. I'm only going to drink today, and tomorrow I won't drink. Well, of course, tomorrow never came. And tomorrow never came until, I ended up in the hospital. That's what the final wake-up call was for me, to stop drinking. But like I said, I had this idea my whole entire life that it will never happen to me. And I think that that's for a lot of us. We have this idea, well, it's not going to happen to me. And, it could be a lot of different things too. These chronic health conditions, or, certain conditions like the C word, that people end up with. And, I think that everybody in their lifetime thinks, it's not going to happen to me. That happens to the next guy, but it's not going to happen to me. And especially when we're younger, we have this like feeling of being invincible, that we live forever. When we're in our teens and our early 20s, we just feel like our life's going to go on forever. At least I felt that way. And I've spoken to a lot of people that have said that, they felt the same way when they were younger. Like life was just going to go on forever and ever and ever. And it doesn't, unfortunately. Or fortunately, however you want to look at it. Some people don't want to live forever. I don't think I'd want to live forever if I had the opportunity to do so. It's just, I don't think I'd want to be here for, thousands of years. Maybe a little bit more than 100 years would be really cool. But, I just don't think I'd want to live here for that long. But either way, that's not the topic for today. Like I said, the topic for today is it'll never happen to me. And the reason I wanted to talk about this today is that, I just really want to reiterate that, drinking, and it doesn't even have to be heavy drinking, just drinking consistently can lead to all kinds of health problems. And like I said, you don't have to be drinking a half a gallon of vodka every single day to end up getting sick from drinking alcohol. It could be just 2 beers a day. It really just depends on your, your body makeup. Did you eat before you drank? Are you drinking every single day? What kind of alcohol are you drinking? If it's 2 beers, or, 2 big tumblers full of liquor, or, whatever it is. But, once again, you still could just have a couple beers, maybe 5 times a week, and end up having cirrhosis or something like that because of it. And like I said, the reason I want to talk about this today is because, unfortunately, it does happen to us. And like I said, my whole entire life, I always thought that's not going to happen to me. And the day that it actually happened, I just remember being flabbergasted. I was speechless. I didn't know what to say. I couldn't believe the words that were coming out of that doctor's mouth. I'd already been in the hospital once before and was told that I had pancreatitis and diabetes. And, that was one thing, which is another thing, diabetes. I didn't ever think I'd end up with diabetes. I barely even ate. Well, I had to stop the video because that was my insurance company calling me. There is always a problem. And now they're saying that there's a problem with the prior authorization with this other hospital that I'm going to, and my nurse case manager was on the phone with me and basically was telling me I need to cancel my appointment. And I'm like, I'm not canceling my appointment. I'm going to keep it. And she's like, well, you don't have prior authorization, so you might be stuck with a bill. And I was like, that's fine. I mean, it is what it is at this point. And I'm just going for a clinical visit just to speak with interventional radiology. I don't have a surgery scheduled yet, but I don't want to keep putting this off and not speaking with a doctor. I want to go speak with a doctor, see what they say, and then they can go ahead and schedule a procedure for me if that's what they're willing to do. And if that's the case, it'll be plenty of time for my insurance company to do prior authorization for the procedure and everything. And I mean, I just asked the lady on the phone, because I was speaking with my nurse case manager and we were on 3-way with the other hospital. And because there was a huge problem. First, she told me that they didn't have prior authorization, and the other doctor I was going to see is not connected with this other hospital that I'm going to. We called the hospital, and then they said, no, this doctor is associated with this hospital. She thought it was gastroenterology or GI, but it was actually interventional radiology. So the nurse case manager had it all twisted up and backwards, and I almost canceled my appointment. But then I said, no, I'm going to keep my appointment. And then we called the hospital and found out that that doctor actually does work for that hospital. And I don't know. It's such a mess. But I do still have my appointment on the 14th. I think I have to be there at like 1 o'clock or something like that. So I'll be keeping you guys posted on that. But, once again, there's another headache, dealing with this stuff. It can be pretty difficult navigating the healthcare system sometimes, especially trying to get your health insurance figured out with, it can just be a mess, which is another great reason to stay sober today. But back to what I was talking about, which, really has to do with what I'm discussing right now. That when that hospitalist came in the room and was telling me that day, that you have cirrhosis, it was like a slap in the face. I could not believe what I was hearing. Never in a million years thought that I would have cirrhosis, because that doesn't happen to me. I don't ever get sick. And now here I am with liver disease, and end-stage liver disease at that. And, I started to develop ascites and, just varices bursting and all this stuff. And just, these are things I didn't even know were even possible. I did not know anything about varices. I didn't know about esophageal varices. I didn't know about pancreatitis. I didn't know about cirrhosis. I didn't know about portal hypertension. I didn't know about the spleen enlargement. I didn't know about any of this stuff. But I sure enough found out and got a pretty quick education on all of these things. But back to what I was talking about, it's just my whole entire life I had this idea that those type of things don't happen to me. I had this feeling of being invincible. My whole entire life, up until I got sick, I just had this idea that, I'll make it through it. I've got these, awesome genetics that allow me to continue to drink the way that I do, and I'm not going to end up sick. Because, I'd never gone to a doctor or gone to a hospital about any of the problems that I had, so I had no idea that I was actually dealing with some pretty serious issues until I did go into the hospital. But like I said, I think there's so many people out there who have that same thought process that I did. That idea that it doesn't happen to me. And I can say that, you do not want to end up having those words said to you, that you've only got so much longer to live, or you have cirrhosis, or you have chronic pancreatitis, or you have an enlarged spleen, or esophageal varices, or whatever it may be, whatever alcohol related or alcoholic neuropathy, or whatever it may be. It's just not a good situation to be in. And I just think that there are so many people out there who think it's not going to happen to me until it actually really does happen to you. And I can promise you, in that moment, hindsight's always 20/20, but that's the moment when you look back and go, why? Why didn't I ever quit? And why, I'd quit these multiple other times. Why didn't I stay stopped? Why didn't I stay quit? Why did I go back to that again? And I can say that for myself, because I quit and relapsed so many times. And gosh, I wish I had just stuck it out and stayed sober. But I didn't. And here I am now dealing with all these headaches and doctor's visits and blood work and yada, 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 and CAT scans and talking on the phone with the insurance company for 2 hours. And it just never ends. And I was just doing the video just a minute ago and had to stop because my insurance company was calling me. That was an hour-long conversation. And I'm sure you can tell by the way that the background looks, by the way the position of the sun is. That was an hour-long conversation with them. And it was a conversation because my insurance company thought that the doctor that I was going to go see was not associated with the hospital. So she's telling me, you need to cancel your appointment or you're going to have to pay out of pocket. And then it ended up being she was wrong. she was trying to help me. I mean, I'm just saying, but she was wrong. She had me, on the phone for an hour because she misunderstood something. And that type of stuff happens. It takes so much time dealing with this stuff. You don't want to be that person that thinks it doesn't happen to me, and the next thing you know, you're at a doctor's office or you're laying in a hospital bed because you started throwing up blood in the middle of the night, and next thing you know, you're laying in the hospital bed and you've got a doctor walking in the room telling you that you have cirrhosis. And from that point forward, it's going to be, I wish I had stopped, or I wish that I had stayed stopped. I know that sounds ridiculous the way I'm saying that, but I can't really think of the correct verbiage for that. But, you wish you had quit and stayed that way. And all for what? I mean, really, in reality, take a look at it. Look back and think about it. What do you get from alcohol? What do you get from your activity that you do that's, causing negative problems in your life? Or what do you get from that substance that you're abusing? Or what are you getting from that food? Or whatever it is, what are you getting out of it? A couple seconds of pleasure? And I can guarantee you that, if you're deep in your addiction right now, you're not getting any pleasure out of it at all. All you're doing is trying to stay from getting sick. And at that point, there is absolutely no enjoyment in it whatsoever. You're just pouring poison down your mouth every day just so that you don't get the withdrawal symptoms. I can promise you right now that those withdrawal symptoms and dealing with that kind of stuff is so much better than what comes on the back end. When you're laying on a hospital bed and they're giving you a paracentesis and they've got a needle this big inside of your belly, and then there's this huge container, glass container or plexiglass container, whatever it is, clear, see-through, sitting on the floor while they're draining your stomach for the fourth time that month, and they just pulled 3 gallons of fluid off of your belly. You've got so much fluid in your belly that you can't breathe. You can't walk up a flight of stairs. Just eating something as simple as a couple of crackers makes you feel like you just ate 10 plates of food. You have absolutely no energy, and all you're doing is laying in the bed all day long. That's not a way to live. I can tell you from personal experience, it's not a fun way to live. When you're laying there every day going, this is my life now. And I blew it all away. All the times that I could have been out doing stuff, but instead I was laying in the bed with a hangover, and I wasted time. I can promise you that the regret of wasted time is so real with this. When they walk in that room and give you that diagnosis and you leave that hospital and go home, knowing that that's the case now, there is so much regret of wasted time. All the things that you could have been doing, all the time you could have been spending with friends and family, all the times you could have been doing something productive for yourself. Instead, you decided to drink it all away. Drank all your money away, drank all your time away, you drank your family away because you drove them off. You've driven off all of your friends because, like I was talking about yesterday, you just want to isolate. All the shame and the guilt that comes along with addiction. You just want to be left alone. You don't want people bothering you while you just want to just be left alone. So that it's just you and your vice, and that's it. And nobody to bother you, nobody to give you a hard time, nobody to say you shouldn't be doing this, nobody to tell you need to quit. It's just you and your bottle, or you and whatever it is, and you might get a little bit of a little dopamine rush, but it's not like it was, 10 years ago. It's not. You're not even getting euphoria anymore. You're not getting anything from it. Like I said, all you're doing is trying to hold off the sick feeling, trying to hold off the shakes. You're trying to fix that anxiety that you have that the alcohol is actually causing. You're ending up with anxiety because of the amount of alcohol that you're drinking the night before. And then the next morning you wake up and you're like, well, I need to drink to get rid of this anxiety so I can just drive to work, or I have to go to work, so I have to drink. You know, we start every single thing that we do, we have to drink or use or whatever before we go do it. Oh, well, I've got to drive into town. Well, I've got to have a drink before I do that. And then if I'm going to drive around town, well, I've got to have a couple drinks for that. But we don't realize that the substance or the alcohol is what's causing the anxiety all along. It creates this cycle, and it's a never-ending cycle that once we get in it, it is so hard to pull ourselves back out of. I've talked about this so many times, but I remember just sitting on my back porch, just bawling, crying. You know, it's 11 o'clock in the morning again, and I'm already seeing double. You know, I walk out on my back porch. I didn't like to smoke first thing in the morning. I just didn't. I was always so hungover when I would wake up in the morning, and I felt so nauseous, and I had the worst headache. I just felt horrible. I did not want to smoke cigarettes when I first woke up, but, 11, 12 o'clock in the morning after I'd had a couple drinks, I'd walk outside and have my first cigarette for the day. And so many days, 11, 11:30, 12 o'clock, I'm sitting on my back porch, and I'm seeing double. And I'm smoking that first cigarette, and man, the buzz that it would, just blast off. And I would sit there and be smoking that cigarette, and just the tears would start pouring down my face because I realized that I'd broken that promise to myself again. Again, I did it. I told myself all week long I wasn't going to do this, and here I am, 3 sheets to the wind, and it's not even 12 o'clock. And I knew good and well that my wife was going to come home, find me passed out in the bed again after I'd promised that I was not going to do it again. Why can't I keep the promise just to myself? Why can't I keep the promise to my wife? Why can't I stop doing this? I just don't want anybody else to end up in the same position that I am in. And that's the reason I come on here and talk about this every single day, guys. I want to educate people. I want to spread awareness about the dangers of alcohol, because alcohol is something that's so widely accepted in our society. It truly is. People look at you funny if you don't drink, especially if you're in your 20s or something. People like, what? You're not drinking? The people that don't drink are the oddball. Now, I will say that there seems to be some sort of a movement that's going on. It seems like a lot of younger people are leaving alcohol alone. There are less and less people that are drinking now, and I'm so happy about that. This younger generation that are coming up aren't drinking as much. They're just not. They're doing other things, but they're not drinking alcohol, and that's a conversation for another day. But, at the end of the day, they're not drinking like we were, If you're in your 30s, 40s, 50s, you guys know how it used to be back in the day. And I'm actually going to be doing a video about this coming up soon too. But, how we were brought up, the movies that we used to watch, the things that were put in front of our face, the advertisements, the commercials that we watched growing up, and especially the movies. Like I said, this is going to be a video coming up soon, but, the movies that we used to watch, Revenge of the Nerds, Porky's, I could sit here all day long and keep, and then movies from like the early 2000s, like Superbad or Old Boy. I could keep naming these movies off all day long. The Hangover 1, 2, and 3. The movie is based off of a bunch of guys going to a bachelor party, getting totally wasted drunk, and then waking up and they don't remember what happened the night before, and there's somebody missing. And that's what happens. It's glorified in that movie. It's comedy in that movie that these guys got so drunk, and then on top of it, they were roofied in the movie as well. And that's funny. And at the end of the day, it's actually really not that funny, because that stuff happens to people in real life every single day. And like I said, this is portrayed upon us as it's okay to get blackout drunk. It's funny to get blackout drunk. As a matter of fact, it's hilarious to get blackout drunk and then wake up the next morning, and then you have to retrace all your steps to figure out what you did the night before. I'm not going to go into the details about what happened in the movie, but the last Hangover movie, it's horrible. It's disgusting what happened in that movie. And I'm not going to get into the details, but the glorification of what went on in that movie, it's like, are you guys kidding me right now? I used to think the stuff was hilarious when I was a drinker, I really did. I thought it was hilarious. Now I don't think it's funny at all. Now I look at it and I go, why is this okay in our society? Why are we doing this? Why are we showing these kinds of films to our youth and making them think that it's okay to get drunk like that? Because we did. We grew up watching the movies, back in the 80s or, the 90s. All the beer drinking party movies from back in those days. And they were out all over the place. And like I said, I'm going to talk about this in another video, so I don't want to keep naming off all these movies right now and then, totally blow the next video. But you guys know what I'm talking about. You were the oddball. If you went to a party and told somebody, I don't drink or I'm not drinking, they'd look at you like you had 3 eyes. Like, what do you mean you don't drink? What's wrong with you? Are you a cop or something? I mean, that's the way that people were. And I think that's starting to change a little bit, and that's great. But at the end of the day, guys, back to the topic of today's video, you don't want to be that person who thought your whole entire life that'll never happen to me. It'll never happen to me. And then next thing you know, you're sitting in a doctor's office, and they just did your blood work, and they're sitting there going over your blood work with you, telling you all the things that are going on in your blood work, and that now you need to go have a CAT scan done. And before you know it, you're at the hospital having a CAT scan. And then next thing you know, they're telling you we probably need to do a fibrosis scan. And then you have to have a liver biopsy. And then next thing you know, you're sitting there with the doctor and they're telling you we might need to put you on the transplant list. And they're talking to you about your options with that. Or they're talking to you about a TIPS. And before you know it, you're in the hospital having surgery after surgery after surgery. And I can tell you guys like this, that if you end up with pancreatic problems, you're going to get really familiar with this thing called ERCP. And they are not fun to have. I've talked about it on here, and, I've said they're not that bad depending on what they do. If they have to go in there and dilate your pancreatic duct, if they go in there and fool around with your pancreas in any sort of nature, be prepared, because it is one of the most painful things you're going to deal with. You're going to wake up from an ERCP and you're going to wish that you never drank a day in your life. They're not fun. And it's just one of those things that you don't want to have to go deal with. If you're getting those thoughts in your head today and you're thinking about, well, I've got this thing going on this weekend and I could probably just have a couple beers this weekend, or, you've had a rough day at work today and you're thinking to yourself, I'm just going to stop by the store and grab a little 4-pack of those little bottles of wine. That's all I'm going to have, and I can portion it with those. I can just have one little bottle of wine. I won't touch the rest, but that's the cheapest way to get it. Or that's the easiest way, most convenient way for me to be able to ration out my alcohol. We come up with all these crazy ideas and, manipulation tactics. We're trying to get somebody to buy into the fact that we want to buy alcohol or buy whatever it is, especially our spouses. We've got to get buy-in. So, we've got to run it by them and tell them this grandiose plan that we have. And, I'm going to do 20 jumping jacks and I'm going to work out for 3 hours, and I'm only going to drink on Fridays, but I'm going to make sure I work out every day, and I'm going to start eating proper, and I'm only going to drink on Friday nights. And that's going to be the deal from now on. And it's just going to be a 6-pack of beer, and you can go to the store and buy it for me if you'd like. And here's my wallet, and here's my debit cards, just so you know I'm not going to go buy anything else. Meanwhile, we've got cash in our pocket. We've got a backup ID. I mean, we always are scheming in our brains and coming up with backup plans, or we get that crazy idea in our head that this is something I've talked about with Slayer many times. As a matter of fact, he just talked about it in his video just the other day. But we get this crazy idea that I'm just going to keep this bottle of liquor around just in case. I'm going to keep it around. It's like a break the glass in case of emergency kind of a thing. I'm going to keep it. And it'll just make me feel better knowing that it's here. And that if I want to drink it, I can. Guess what? They've got liquor at the store. They got beer at the store. They got wine. They got everything that you could ever want at the store all day long. You do not need it in your house. You don't. Don't have it anywhere around you. Don't have it in your car. Don't have it in your house. Get rid of everything that you have. Because at some point, you're going to drink it. I mean, it's just the way it goes. Don't have it around you. Just get rid of it. You don't need any emergency alcohol. Like I said, they've got it at the store all day long. If you want to go to the store and buy your alcohol, it's there. So no need to keep it around your house. And they're not going to stop making alcohol anytime soon. So trust me, you're good. Like I said, guys, you don't want to end up being told that you have a health problem because of your AUD. You just don't. Because I can promise you that you're probably thinking the same thing that I was thinking, is that it's not going to happen to me until it actually really does. And like I said, hindsight's 20/20, and we can look back and go, you know, I should have done this and this and this, but by then it's too late. It's too late. You can't reverse it once it gets to cirrhosis. If you end up with fatty liver, you can turn that around. You know, so, you know, finding that out, you know, that might actually be a good thing. You know, to go to the doctor, find out you got fatty liver, that might be just enough to scare you to go, I'm going to stop. And you can start eating right, stop drinking, start drinking more water, take care of yourself, and you could turn that fatty liver around. But it's just, guys, it's really not something that you want to be told. You just don't. All right, now I hear somebody in my woods. There's actually really somebody in my woods. I'm about to have to get off of here and go see what's going on. So anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching today. I really do appreciate it. And you do not want to be told that information. I can promise you that. It's just not, you know, something that we want to hear. And like I said, a lot of us spend our life thinking that will not be me until the day that it comes that it is us. And that's a really hard pill to swallow when we find out that we actually ended up with what we told ourselves we would never get. Stay sober today, guys, because it can happen to you. It happened to me. Don't be another statistic. You don't want to be a statistic, guys. So now I don't hear talking about. I'm about to go over here and see what's going on. I swear there's always something going on out here. But anyway, thank you so much for watching today, guys. I truly do appreciate it. And I think that's about it for today. Like I said, you know, I just wanted to talk about how, you know, myself, I thought my whole entire life that will never be me. And I'm sure there's a lot of you out there who have thought the same thing. And I don't want anybody to end up being told that information. It's just not what we want to hear. And you can try your best to prevent it by staying sober today. Don't just go quitting cold turkey on your own without speaking with a doctor. I just want to throw that in really quick, guys, that stopping alcohol or benzodiazepines abruptly can be life-threatening, and it can cause a lot of problems if you do so. Please speak with a doctor and get their opinion on what they think, and be completely 100% honest with them. They need to know how much you've been drinking, how long you've been drinking, all that stuff, because they might want to put you through a medical detox, they might not. But let your doctor make that decision for you and find out where you need to go from here. So anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching today. I really do appreciate it. If you would like to help support the channel, please go to the link below. That's for the Buy Me a Coffee. I really do appreciate it, guys. All of you that have donated to the Buy Me a Coffee Cash App or Super Thanks. Thank you so much for the support. And with that said, guys, until tomorrow, I will see y'all then. Y'all have a great rest of your night.